Hey, YouTube, how is it going? I hope all is well. This is kind of another video that you're probably not going to want to watch, so I'm going to get a lot of the crap out of the way just on the front end. I hope you don't mind this kind of stuff. I know that this isn't the stuff that garners the most attention. That Mojo Tone video I did kind of did pretty good. Videos where I kind of talk about what I'm up to and where I'm trying to go with things don't seem to do very good. I know you guys kind of like to see the building stuff where I'm actually building these things. I understand that, and I want you to understand that, as I mentioned in a previous video, you're watching a company grow from the ground up. So there are a lot of little things that are going on, and I can't spend all of my time doing recordings and building these things and showing you in real time. So there's just, housework that has to be done. So I'm trying to involve you guys in it because I'd like to get the feedback, and I'm just kind of, feeling the waters to see kind of what works and where I can go with things. Obviously, drama always seems to win, which is kind of unfortunate, but thank you for, your support. I appreciate all of that. I'm coming up pretty quick here on 2,000 subscribers. It's crazy. So just so much to do, so little time to do it. I have a full-time job. I do work. So if you want to change that for me, give me a call, because I'd like to build some amplifiers. Trust you me. But then I could do this stuff full time. But I'm not begging. I don't care. I love what I do, but I am looking to turn this into a new career if possible. So we're working on that part. In either case, couple things. Number one, as you can see, I've got this preamp pedal down here. We're going to Excuse me, got the burpees right now. We are going to talk about that a little bit more. I also wanted to see what your opinion was on possibly doing like live streams. I thought about doing it today, but I don't have a 4K webcam, and I kind of want to keep the content similar to how I have been doing it, where you can see this view here also, and also my computer screen. So I didn't do that today, but I'd like to judge some people's interest in that, to see if doing a live stream is something you guys would be interested in, to kind of talk about this stuff and see me do things more or less in real time. I kind of do all my videos as if I'm doing a live stream anyway. I don't really do many edits. Everything's shot in one shot, and it's just a hell of a lot easier for me to do it in real time, which kind of makes some of my conversation a little hard to deal with because I repeat things a bit too much, and I say and all that other crap a little bit too much perhaps. So I'm sorry. I know that some people tease about just seeing my hands and my tattoo. I probably don't answer as many questions as I should and engage with people as much as I should doing these things, but I think doing it more of a live stream style is kind of a way where I can address some of those little issues. I guess one thing I want to kind of get out of there right now, or just kind of get out there right now, is I did have a gentleman ask me about using toroidal transformers and doing a build of one of my amps with those. I'm really not interested in doing something like that. Two reasons. Again, it just doesn't fulfill the direction I'm trying to go. I'm not trying to be a custom amp company. I have built a couple of custom amps that are basically my amps that have aesthetic customizations. I gave I put his name that he desired on the amp, even though that's not the name of the amp. And I've done some other things, where the colors and the images on the faceplate and stuff were of his choosing, and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm really not looking to go down the custom amp direction. If that's what you're into, check out Andy Lederman, that other channel that I mentioned the other day. He is all about doing these custom amp things. For myself, it's just not where I want to go. I don't want to do custom. I had another gentleman ask me if I would build like a Marshall style amp or something for them. And it's not where I want to go. I want to build my amps, and I want to do them my way. As crappy as that might sound, I'm not trying to push business away, but at the same time, I want the business to be what I want it to be. There's a reason I don't build amps that are similar to Marshall. I don't really like some of their things. I don't really do what most other people are doing. It's in a vein thereof, but I do kind of have my own thing going for me. And let's talk a little bit more about that and why. First and foremost, When I first started building a guitar amp, or building guitar amps several years ago now, my first one that I got was a kit. And it was basically the 18 watt version that you've seen me build a couple times on this channel. It started off as a kit, and it was cool. It worked really well. Turned it on and it did the thing, right? It did the Marshall 18 watt thing. It was the TMB, or treble middle bass variant, and it was cool. But I still wasn't happy with it. The clean channel that it had, you know, the normal 18 watt channel, was just not, it didn't do it for me. And then the gain channel wasn't gainy enough, and it still just didn't do it for me. So I was instantaneously already on the whole modify it until I get what I want sort of thing. After months and months and months, turning into 2 years of tinkering with that thing to get it where I wanted it to go, I tried effects loops in it, I tried this, I tried that, I added another gain stage, so it's kind of like a JCM 800, etc., etc. I tried all those different things, and it still just wasn't what I was looking for. I must have tried 50 different circuits in there. I tried everything from Dr. Z circuits to Trainwreck circuits to this circuit to that circuit, etc., etc. You name it, I tried some variant of it, and none of them did the thing that I was looking for. And I finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? Most people use a pedal, and I can kind of see why. The effects loops that I was putting in it just did not work. It was not doing what it was supposed to do. So I was like, okay, so the effects loop has to be excluded just off the bat, right off the bat. The effects loop isn't going to be in this thing. And then I was like, you know what? I want to just go as simple as I can. I want to do one stage right into the phase inverter. If I can't make it sound good like that, then it's the amp itself. It's not me, right? And it just immediately sounded exactly like I hoped it would sound by doing that. Literally just taking one triode, running it straight to the phase inverter, no tone stack, no nothing, and it sounded amazing. And I was just like, oh, that was the eye-opener for me, was that, okay, these things can sound amazing. It is the circuit that changes the game. And that's when I started tinkering around more with that. I kind of don't like having unused stuff sitting around, so I did the parallel triode thing. And then I created some sort of a tone stack that is non-interactive and sounds great for that circuit. And that is my 18 watt. Very, very simple. Does the clean to mean thing. Very amazing cleans. It's probably one of the most dynamic amps I own. And it uses EL84s. People don't like EL84s. And I thought EL84s were thin sounding and crap at 1.2. And then when I built that amp and got it to the point where I finally was happy with it, attitude changed right away. EL84s are amazing freaking tubes. They have plenty of bass. The boom is there. It has it. It's all about the design. I think a lot of people just pigeonhole certain types of glass. I'm going to call them glass tubes. Output tubes is glass. They pigeonhole it into a certain topology, and that's where they run with it. And I think that's what kind of makes those tubes live in that category that most people don't really like. Once I had started to realize how simple circuits can really go a long way, I get a heck of a lot of gain out of that amp with only one stage pushing just the output section of that amp. The only distortion in that amp comes from either the phase inverter or the output tubes. Same goes for most all of my other designs. I only have one design right now, and I know you haven't heard them all, but I only have one design right now that actually has 2 gain stages before the phase inverter. And the way I have it set up, it is literally that the second gain stage doesn't even start to break up until well after or just about at the time that the phase inverter does. I did that on purpose. It's meant to do a certain thing a certain way. So it is the most gainy of all the amps that I have, but it was designed so that it just, once you get it to that point, it's pretty stable. And then if you want to give it just that little bit more, it will take you there, right? So I have a couple different flavors, but none of them have an effects loop in them because the amp itself is designed to be the effects loop. What is an effects loop in an amplifier? It is an insert between the preamp of the device, And I hope maybe, you know, I'm assuming preamp's going to be over here, right? And the power amp, right? It's an insert between those two sides. So power amp includes the phase inverter and output tubes. It's just a signal that goes out from that point and then back in at that point. With the typical, even a really good effects loop, it cannot possibly deal with all the different ways that effects pedal boards and all that stuff are set up. Be it a short cable or a 25-foot long cable, you got a send and a return that is going through that length of cable. It cannot possibly deal with all those different lengths of cables and all the different possibilities that could be on your pedal board. You might have 15 pedals on your pedal board that might consist of 3 or 4 different buffers. You might only have 2 pedals on your pedal board that has no buffers. All of those things, you know, change how that effects loop reacts and will work, and it cannot accommodate all of them. But its placement within the amp is in a spot where you cannot possibly fix any of the shortcomings that it has. It goes from there straight into the phase inverter, and after it gets past that point, there is no fixing anything any longer. So that is why I'm not a fan of effects loops. A really good amplifier, you can put anything you want into the front of it and it's going to sound exactly like it should. So if you plug your guitar straight into the amplifier and it sounds great that way, and then you plug your guitar into your effects board, your whatever effects pedal board you have, and you bypass all the effects and it goes into the front of the amp, if it sounds just as good that way, then you know you have the right setup going on. If it sounds like dookie after you've plugged in all your pedals, then something in your pedal board is breaking things. It's making it sound not right. All right, makes sense? Well, the idea is that you'll take out the offending pedals, or you'll do what you need to do to make it so that way when all the effects are bypassed, when you plug into the front of them, it sounds exactly the same as if you plugged into the front of the amp. Any amp will do just that. Pretty much, if it's clean and set up right, it will do what it needs to do and amplify what you put into it. Hence why I'm into the whole idea of a preamp style setup, where all your effects and all your other stuff like that lives in front of the amp. You use one less cable because you're not using a send and a return. You're using your guitar into your effects, and then from your effects you go from there into the amplifier. Makes sense, right? And most everybody these days is using some sort of a pedal, so it makes sense to just have the preamp built in and down there with all the rest of your stuff, so you can do what you need to do before the amp, which will then amplify it. Makes sense? I hope that makes sense. So let's go back to the screen a little bit after I take a sip. So there are a few different options that I've shown here. The Beekeeper is, I believe, one that has kind of, it says right on it, a D-style preamp. I may kind of go up that avenue. Basically anything that's got 3 or more cascaded gain stages is kind of just Dumble territory, right? Mesa Boogie is kind of like that. There's a couple other amps out there. I think even Angle has kind of something similar to that. It's just kind of how they flavor it and how they process the signal that kind of really differentiates them. But Dumbles are more or less just your Fender Deluxe reverbs with another stage built in there. Maybe the Showmans or something like that. But whatever it is, it's more or less a Fender front end that has an extra gain stage in it or something like that. And the EQ is set up, or the tone stack is set early in the preamp, and it just kind of helps set the pace, I guess, if you will, for the rest of the preamp. It's more or less just that. It sets the pace for the rest of the preamp. So that's the whole Dumble thing. I'm open to that. I don't want to do a direct, like, number 183 copy or 124 copy or something like that. It will be a cascaded gain stage thing. I don't know quite yet what I'm going to do with the tone stack. I have kind of a thing that works for me in my amplifiers. I'll probably do something similar with this, where I'll have a low cut and a high cut, and maybe I'll do something like a mid shift or something like that. We'll see. I don't like using full tone stacks. They do impart a flavor on the sound of the the preamp, and it's not necessarily good, not necessarily bad either, but it does suck a lot of gain out. And I found that keeping it so that the tone stack really isn't so much a tone stack as much as it is just a way to tune that stage to do what you need it to do, and then put another tone element somewhere else. They don't interact. I don't like interactive tone stacks. Can you tell? So they do what they need to do, but they do it a little more passively without eating into the tone of the amp so much. That's kind of my idea there. So another option that's out there, I'm kind of just showing you the high gain or high voltage tube preamp options that are out there. So the Tubesteader Beekeeper is one that uses high voltage inside. So when I say high voltage, what I mean is they're using something similar to this here, where it takes a low voltage in, a 9 volt to 12 volt in this instance here. And then on the output side of it, it puts out 250 volts DC or more. I think some of them produce as much as 300 or 400 volts out of the other end of this. Now, the way it does that is it converts current or lower voltage at a higher current into a higher voltage at lower current. So that's able to take, 9 to 12 volts here and spit out, maybe it pulls one amp, maybe 500 milliamps from the wall. And then on the other end, it's able to produce maybe 300, 400 milliamps or more, just depends on the circuitry, and get you, 400 volts or something like that, whatever it might be. Depends on the design. So that's how they're doing it. That's how I'm going to do it. Blackbird, same. They got a couple different options. It's quite the spread, actually. It's almost works out to about $100 per tube, amazingly. You can get it with JJ tubes or NOS Brimar tubes. Let's talk about that a little bit. I am not a fan of NOS or any kind of vintage tube as a market. I kind of feel like tubes are like toilet paper. If you use it, you don't want to use it again. So basically, once you use it to the point where it has been, saturated beyond any further use, you flush it down the toilet. That's literally what it is. It's an expendable item. So if you go out and you spend $100 per, 12AX7 for that killer freaking NOS tube, there's no guarantee that it's going to sound good because it's, been sitting on a shelf for 50, 60 years or more. So there's no guarantee that it's going to sound good. There's no guarantee even how long it will last, even if it does sound good. And more or less, you're taking that $100 and you're flushing it down the toilet just to say that you have a new old stock or vintage tube. I own some myself. I have some RCAs. I have all that stuff. I do have a stash of them. And I find that every time I use them, sure, they do sound different, not necessarily better. And some of them have issues. They didn't stand the test of time. And after 50 years, they're not working as good as they probably once did. So vintage tubes are not the end all be all of the future of guitar amplification. I kind of feel like you're just better off getting the modern stuff. JJ, I feel, is as good as they come. There's a 33.33% chance that any given tube out there in the market today anyway comes from JJ. Most of these companies, like Fender, Mesa, and a couple others, literally buy a tube from JJ and then slap their logo on it. That's essentially what Groove Tubes did back in their time. They were taking whatever tube that they could get their hands on and just putting their name on it. Groove Tubes was kind of the originator of the whole, NOS thing. I think they kind of found a way to market that. And that's literally all it is. It's just a marketing thing. It's a way to take a tube that was once made for 25 cents. And believe you me, a 12AX7 made 50 years ago cost 25 cents to acquire at, Thrifties or whatever heck store you could buy them from at the time. And now they're selling them for multiple hundreds of dollars. Some of them are just outrageous. I don't get it. It does not make sense. So I prefer just good old-fashioned modern tubes. Sure, some of them are duds. Not all of them, though. But you can buy them today, and they're about 13 to 20 bucks a pop. Big whoop. Whatever. Make the device sound good with those types of tubes, and it's going to sound good with just about any tube. Because if it doesn't sound good with a bad tube, well, I don't see how using a good tube is going to make it sound much better. So, I don't know. That's a me thing. But Anyway, moving on. The Blackbird made by Effectrode, pretty cool little pedal. It uses three 12AX7s, and it does have a balanced transformer output. I do like that. I'm not certain I'm going to use a transformer output for my designs. I like to get away from it. They're not cheap, and I'm trying not to have, you know, something that costs $1,000. I'm trying to keep away from that. I want it to be something that is a little more attainable, if you will. But, you know, we'll do what we can. We'll see. So most all these tubes that you've seen so far do have some sort of channel switching going on. This one had, it looks like, at least 2 channels. I'm guessing it's more like a boost more so than a channel, but we'll see. I'm gonna have something similar to that. I'm not gonna do 2 full channels, I can tell you that right now. It'll be more like the tube steader here, where you have 1 channel and then you can, you click the button and it gives you an option, either a boost or just another variant that has a little bit more character to it, if you will. That's kind of more where I'm looking to go. Mainly by the design of the pedal itself. I don't want to have 2 full-on channels. I don't like that idea, and I don't think it works very well. Tone King is one of those companies that's even kind of getting on board with the whole Friedman thing, and this is why BAD, Boutique Amplifier Distribution, or Boutique Amp Distribution, whatever their name is bad. BAD is bad. This is what it's turning all these companies into. I'm pretty sure Tone King is under the bad umbrella. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. And I know that Friedman is. So now you've got 2 products from 2 companies under bad that are basically direct competitors to each other and have almost the same kind of thing going on. Obviously, Friedman is more in the Marshall territory. So they're obviously going to corner that market, whereas Tone King is more in the Fender territory. And I kind of feel that 3 12AX7s doing whatever they do and having at least 1, maybe 2 pedals set up to deal with reverb and tremolo is kind of a waste, in my opinion. I can tell you right now that the reverb in this thing is digital. So why even bother putting a tube-driven reverb in it? It's already a digital reverb, so whatever. You've already got IR loading in there, so it's already got a digital aspect of it anyway. The tube-driven tremolo, maybe the tube-driven tremolo is as good, if not better, than any pedal that you can buy today, but I kind of feel like the, what is that Strymon pedal that they have that does the tremolo? I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but that one's a pretty hard pedal to beat. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like this thing here is going to be a little bit pricier than this guy here. I kind of feel like it's going to be more like $600, if not closer to $700 to get away with the features that it has. And, the fact that it has an actual extra tube in there. I could be wrong. I don't know. I haven't seen any pricing on this yet. So, cool, whatever. Most of this is just opinion. I have not heard it yet, but I am not a fan of the whole IR thing. And of course, we cannot have a conversation about amplifiers without involving Friedman into the mix. Cool thing. I like what they're going with this. I like that they were kind of the first ones to really kind of bring back the whole, high voltage, real tube preamp thing. I kind of feel like they repopularized it. Having the whole IR thing in there is kind of cool. I have a couple friends that own this. I've gotten to play through it a couple times. It's not on their pedal boards as a permanent fixture. They got it because they wanted to check it out and see what they could get with it. And it just wasn't so good that they needed to replace, A, their amplifier, and then B, all the other pedals that they already had. The IR thing just doesn't, it's just not there yet. You cannot get a preamp pedal to sound like an amp in a box. You just can't. It's not there yet. So that is me opinion. Obviously there are hundreds of musicians out there making this work for them just fine. So, I guess I can't say much of anything that's going to carry any weight at the moment, but I do understand that. So let's get back to me because that's the important part. I kid, of course. So yeah, I am going to have some sort of options, probably 3 options that will kind of cover different territories. I will probably not have anything that's going to step in the Friedman territory or modified Marshall territory. I will probably have something that is akin to kind of the whole Dumbly thing, more or less just cascaded gain stages, whatever. Mesa Boogie kind of does, like I mentioned before, the same sort of thing. So it's not far from where I'm going to land, I imagine. I'm not very certain as to what the Blackbird has in it in terms of, its circuitry. The Tone King we already know is going to be very Fendery. I kind of feel like mine will end up more in the Fendery territory, to be honest. I will probably do more of a Vox AC30 kind of circuit, which is more or less like an early plexi kind of circuit where you have one triode that goes into another triode that then has the cathode follower behind it. That is what the top boost is in an AC30. It's essentially a Marshall type plexi channel with just a fewer number of tubes perhaps in it, or triodes in it. Instead of having 3 triodes and a cathode follower, it will have 1 triode or 2 triodes and then a cathode follower, that sort of thing. We'll see. We don't know yet. I haven't actually built it yet, as you can see. But I will have 3 variants, I think, and that's probably where I'll leave it at. No, I'm not. I already know I'm not. So Crazy Tube circuits, they build a effects loop kind of into the pedal, which is kind of cool, but I don't really want to do that. The idea behind this, where I'm going with all this, is that you can buy this, you can put it in front of my amps if you want. You can buy this and put it in front of your amps if you want. It's another product that I can sell that is handmade, semi-custom, if you will. It's different than anything else you can buy out there. But it'll get you a flavor of what I have or what I want to offer without actually having to buy the whole thing. Objectively, however, these will be designed to work in unison with my amp designs or in my amp topology. So these will be tuned to work with my amps, which is to say, kind of like the whole Bob Zika thing with his Gain Master pedal. He designs those to work with his amps. He does not sell them separately, though, for you to buy to just put in front of any amp. Basically, if you buy one of his Gain Master pedals, it has to come attached with the amp, more or less. I do not want to go that route. I'm not that, hip, I'm not that cool yet. But I'm just kind of warning you up front that these are going to be designed, like Bob Zika's, to work with my offerings. If they work well with another offering, cool, so be it. But that's not necessarily the intention of them. But maybe I'll have another variant that is more tuned for everyday use and into subpar amplifiers. I wish I could say that seriously, but I am not an amp god. I make some pretty cool stuff. I want to say that what sets me apart from most other builders and companies out there is just the care in how it's built. Sound is very, very subjective. I've been a sound engineer for 20 plus years, going on 25 years or something, maybe 26 years now. But in either case, I swear to God, I can make a band sound like the CD, if not better than a CD sometimes. Like I have those days where I'm on point and it's killing it. And then you got that one guy invariably in the crowd that's just like, sounds like Dookie, whatever, like you just can't make everybody happy. So, and I do live sound, by the way. I'm not a recording engineer or anything like that. I do live audio. That's my whole thing. But, you just can't make everybody happy. So sound being as subjective as it is, what I think sounds good, not everybody will. I know that. So I kind of feel, based on my experience with guitar amplifiers, I've been playing for 30 years now, a little longer than 30 years. Every amp I've had has kind of done a thing, right? It's maybe been good at some things, but not good at other things, perhaps, right? But what I have noticed is that there are some amps that I have played in the years where nothing I can do to them sounds good, right? Basically, I don't play them because they just sound bad. I found something maybe for a minute that made it work, but you know, it always took work to get it there, and there was always maybe some sort of compromise to it. The PV-XXX is probably the only 100+ watt amp that I own that I have kept as long as I have, and it's not because I particularly like the sound of it. It's just the only amp that I've had over the years where it does what I expect it to do, and it doesn't sound bad when I do it. I have a Jet City JCA, whatever the 50 watter is. I just could never get that thing to work, and it's supposedly a Soldano. I don't know what it is. It sounds like a wiry, ballless piece of crap. I don't know. I played in a few bands with it. I tried really hard to gel with it. I can't. So I relegated myself to gutting it one day and turning it into a real amp, utilizing the parts within it. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I won't. But and then I have an Ignator Tweaker 15, and that's actually honestly been one of the cooler amps that I had. I played that in a band for a while, and it did good for me. I don't like the gain channel or the high gain channel on it. The lower, you know, normal gain channel that it has, or what do they call it? Well, they call it the clean channel, but whatever its lowest gain channel is, actually sounds pretty dang good. But even still, it's just, with all the, you know, little switches and all the little crap on there to make it become a convertible type of amp, it still just doesn't do a thing. Sounds good enough to get the point across, but it's just meh. It's just meh, right? And then once I got my 18 watt, when I built that and got it to where it is now, that was when my eyes opened up. I was like, oh, that's a freaking amp, man. Oh my goodness. It's got balls, it's got dynamics, it's super duper clean, and quiet. Like, you can gain it all the way up and you can barely tell the damn thing's on, right? So those sort of things are kind of where I'm trying to also go with these guys here. I want something that is evocative, I guess is the term. I want it to evoke things from you. I want it to be a step above in terms of quality and everything else than, you know, the Friedmans and the Tone Kings, even the Effectrode and the Tubesteader stuff. Like, I want something that is a step above those, and the hope is to try to get it in a more affordable package. We'll see how that's going to work. I don't know how that's going to work. I have to build it first, and then I have to find a way to make it marketable. So that is the next step. So I want to thank you so much for listening to me ramble on for as long as you probably haven't yet. If you've stuck around this far in the video, thank you so very much. Let me know if you got to this point in the video, and again, just let me know if you're into the whole live stream idea. It's kind of more what I want to do anyway, it seems, but you will get to see me build this. I do need to come up with a circuit for this. I haven't actually done that kind of work yet. I've kind of put the power amp or the power supply first on the list. So I need to do some testing on this to make sure it's actually going to do what I want it to do. So I'm going to put that on a scope here pretty soon and see if it's going to be quiet enough, how it's going to work. And then we'll build something into this and you'll get to see all that. So I also need to finish up some other amps that I have built. I got to build the shells. So maybe I'll do some stuff on that as well. Although I don't know how interesting that is for people. So let me know what you think. But thank you again. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Goodbye.